What is distress intolerance? All human beings experience a range of emotions. Some emotions may be comfortable to us, others may be uncomfortable. Most people don't seek help for what we call good feelings like contentment, happiness, joy, etc. So today, we'll talk about the various types of emotions that people tend to find distressing. And these include sad feelings. This group includes emotions that reflect sadness at varying degrees of intensity. It includes emotions like disappointment, hurt, despair, guilt, shame, sadness, depression, grief, and misery. It includes mad feelings. This group includes emotions that reflect anger, again, at varying degrees of intensity. So we're talking about feelings like irritation, agitation, frustration. Um, some people use the word disgusted when they feel angry. They might use the word jealousy, anger, rage, or hatred. Then there's the group of feelings that are the scared feelings, and it includes emotions, again, reflecting different levels of intensity. And these are feelings like nervousness, anxiety, dread, fear, panic, and terror. Most people dislike feeling uncomfortable. So when we experience emotional discomfort, we tend to evaluate it very negatively. And emotions don't often ride on their own. They usually have a kind of companion reaction to them. We've got a voice that shows up and comments on whatever the original feeling is. Here are some of the common beliefs that people have when they start to experience negative emotions. They tend to internally say things or say things out loud like, I can't stand this. This is unbearable. I hate this feeling. You've got to stop it. Take it away. Take it away. I can't cope with this. I can't deal with it. I'm going to lose control if this goes on. Or sometimes people feel embarrassed. They react and they say things like, it's weak. Only a weak person feels like this. Or they think that they're going to go crazy. Some people tell themselves that they're mentally broken for having a certain feeling. They think that it's going to go on forever. They think that it's bad to feel this way, that a good person wouldn't feel like this. Some people feel guilty and they believe that it's wrong to feel the feeling that they're feeling. So we don't just have feelings and thoughts, we also have reactions to them. We have reactions that escalate the intensity of what we're feeling, and we have reactions that lower the intensity. And we can also cultivate reactions that help us to grow and mature our ability to effectively deal with the emotions that life stirs up in us. The more strongly we hold some of these unhelpful kinds of beliefs that I just listed, the more bothered that we're going to be by our emotions and by our thoughts and by our feelings. And consequently, the more we're going to be desperate to get rid of them. Our level of tolerance towards emotions is based on how much we fear them. It's also based on how unpleasant they feel to us and how unbearable we believe they are. So all of these fuel how much we want to get away from emotions and just fight them or avoid them. Distress intolerance is when somebody believes that they're unable to cope with their uncomfortable emotions and they try to escape or avoid them. It's these rigid attempts to control and avoid human distress that lies at the root of much of the misery that we feel. In my career, I've seen firsthand how desperate attempts to control feelings fuels all sorts of conditions like anxiety disorders, OCD, complex trauma, and a whole host of addictions and compulsions. How does distress intolerance develop? Well, it's likely a combination of both biological and environmental factors that lead some people to be more intolerant of emotional distress than other people are. There's some suggestion that some people are biologically more sensitive to negative emotions and they experience them much more easily and at a higher level of intensity. And they also do so for a longer duration than many other people do. This means that some people experience negative feelings as much more painful, and hence they've got a greater difficulty coping with that experience. It's also likely that our experiences growing up through childhood, adolescent, and through our adult lives shape how we deal with emotions. Some people may not have been shown ways to tolerate emotional discomfort appropriately and helpfully. For example, many people are punished for expressing very normal human emotions like sadness or crying or fear. Others have only seen adults deal in unhelpful ways with their feelings. For example, seeing a loved one use alcohol or drugs to try to cope, to try to self medicate. The problems with distress intolerance is that it makes a lot of sense to try to get away from things that feel unpleasant. And that strategy does seem to work for things that make us uncomfortable, sensations like heat, cold, pain, hunger. But unfortunately, when we apply the same tactic and the same strategy to our emotions, it will often backfire. The more we fear, struggle with, fight, try to destroy, or avoid any form of distress, generally, the worse that distress gets over time. It's our fear and avoidance of the distress that actually amplifies it. So, what can be done to help? Instead of fearing and fighting uncomfortable emotions and desperately trying to get rid of them, it's possible to learn how to sit with them and tolerate emotional distress. Then, what happens is over time, we learn that the emotion is going to pass, just like the weather, and that we can cope with it. This will involve identifying and challenging some implicit beliefs that you probably hold about your emotions. And it will involve learning to balance both tolerating emotional discomfort when it does arise for you and taking action to improve your life. So, brace yourself. What we're really talking about is cultivating acceptance. Now, hold on for a minute. Hear me out. I know that acceptance in our culture is kind of a dirty word. We have whole industries, we have huge chunks of our economy that are focused on not accepting ourselves, not accepting other people, and not accepting some of the most basic realities of human life. So, I'm going to give you some other ways to think about acceptance, since it might be a word that's very, very, very aversive to you. Some other words for acceptance are acknowledging the existence of something, dropping the struggle, sitting with a thought or a feeling. Those are all ways you can think about the concept of acceptance. Now, many of my millennial clients use a phrase that I love called holding space. So hold space for a thought, hold space for a body reaction. So keep in mind, acceptance is not resignation. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about sucking it up. I'm not telling you to white knuckle it. I'm not telling you to give up in defeated helplessness. I am not telling you to disavow committed action to change your life. So To accept what's happening, we actually need to know what's happening. And awareness is missing whenever we're hijacked by any emotional, mental, or behavioral habit. Breaking your habit and becoming more emotionally mature requires growing your capacity for awareness. Now, before we go further, remember this video is for informational and educational purposes only. I'm a therapist, but I'm not your therapist. So please get the go ahead from your therapist before doing this exercise or any exercise like it. This exercise is going to help you learn more about yourself and help you to stretch and expand your distress tolerance. I've used this with hundreds of clients, so I know firsthand how helpful it can be for people. You're going to need a timer, and you'll also need some way to take notes. Step one, plan out in advance how long you're going to practice. Remember, this is a practice, it's like a workout. I suggest that you start with something like 10 or 15 minutes. You can always adjust it. But I do suggest that you plan it out in advance because sometimes what happens is halfway through an exercise, we can become the urge to just avoid it and distract ourselves and make the feeling go away can become overpowering. So plan it out in advance. Step two, write out whatever you're experiencing the moment. Here you're simply noticing and reporting. Write down the thoughts that are going through your mind. Just write them all out, like a report. Write down the images that are going through your mind. Notice the sensations that you feel in your body. Notice the movement impulses. And notice where the sensation and the movement impulses are. You can check and see what your breathing's like without changing it, without doing some special kind of breath. It's just noticing and describing. So again, what you're doing is simply writing down what's happening. Now, I've worked with a lot of clients where I'll tell you, there's a lot greater benefit to actually writing it out for most people. Many clients tell me that they try to do this in their head, but it's harder for them. It's easier to do on paper and literally write everything out. Like you're documenting the flow of experiences as you note them. Over time, you're probably going to find that this exercise is going to help you learn to build your confidence that you can indeed handle your own thoughts and feelings and impulses. And doing this exercise is going to help you build the skill to do so. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it. And also, please visit my site, www.michaelgquirk.com, to learn more about topics just like this. I'm looking forward to reading what you write and also talking about it with you.